Welcome back. It is JS News, the fourth stream, and we're in Kelowna's office of Media Park.
Yeah.
So actually, it's a really nice office. Uh, I'm not sure if we can actually do a presentation, but yeah, it's really cool here. So what are we gonna talk about today?
Today we are going to talk about Remix, new release, public release, version 1. Then we're going to talk about Recoil.
Yeah, since Recoil released a new version finally.
A new version 0.5.
Well, it's better than 0.4.
Yeah, but it seems like it's never going to production.
Yeah.
But we just got tired, and I think we want to see what's the state of it.
Yeah.
And then I have a really nice surprise. Well, basically, it's yet another one GraphQL service, but this time it's super cool. So stay tuned. Okay, the first one, Remix. Who wants to do the honors?
So yeah, Remix last week released a new version, public version. They received the funding and they released it for free. And yeah, we can start going through some features they are presenting us on their homepage. So yeah, they are providing this static server-side rendering tool. It has a nested routes, and there is some benchmarks showed in their website. So you can basically have a nested routes in their page like here, and split that components like this one, and it preloads automatically. Yeah. So they have a loader for every route. So when route is requested, it starts loading. And the other cool feature about Remix, I think we showed it at the first podcast in the Can See Dots website. There's, this is the benchmark. Yeah. This is without Remix. This is with Remix. So yeah, it's a lot faster.
I also like it how they did this website. So basically, it's this scrollable animation.
Yeah.
It's pretty much on a trend now. Okay, so
They're saying no to spinners.
yeah, probably. And then yeah, so the prefetching of links. I think.
Yeah, the prefetching of links is amazing. So you just hover. Yeah, I think we can show that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
you hover on the link and it starts loading before you even click.
Nice.
So that's amazing one, and all the nested routes are loaded too.
Yeah, cool. So basically, in the ideal case, if you're using Remix, you should never have basically a spinner or a progress bar.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends. It depends on how much data you actually need to fetch and preload. But since you like split up into different nested states and different nested routes, and you can actually like handle the loading only inside that specific component, I guess that won't be an issue. You can just split those. You can still have some loaders for those big data sections.
Yeah, and I think I read or watched Kenzie Dodd's website. I don't remember, but he had some data that was not seen on the first page. You need to scroll down, so it was not loaded instantly, but it was loaded when it was already loaded, and then starts prefetching that data which was a little bit down on the page.
So okay.
So basically, what this does is it just makes the first loading time a lot faster than it is now. Since on most like websites built with UI frameworks like React and things, usually you have to wait quite a long time until the whole JS like loads and parses and actually shows you the website. So this solves that issue, which I think we need like a production example of Remix in the future
Yeah,
that
that's
is
right.
actually usable with a lot of data that users actually use. But until that time comes, I think the amount of Remix developers will be quite low
Probably.
because not many people will pick it up since they're mostly on Vue and React now.
Well, it is like, yeah.
Since it's
Yeah, that's
completely new, so it will take some time to completely pick up, and actually it's for companies to start using it, since the support for the project has to go on. So keep an eye out for this framework. Do use it in your personal projects and test it, since it's now free, since they got that funding.
Yeah.
And I think you'll notice a lot of good things happening in it that you didn't notice in React.
That's right. I wonder if they have some examples, like how difficult it's actually. Oh, it's so simple, they say in here. But actually, how difficult it is to like implement that. For example, this preloaded thing. Have you tried to look at it?
Preloading is done automatically. I think there was a code on this homepage.
I think it's on the top,
Let me check.
if that's the right one.
The route has this loader thing
Mm-hmm.
that gets, for example, this project,
Mm-hmm.
and
You can just
later
use the
you
loader.
use loader data.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, when the route is requested, it just requests this loader,
Mm-hmm.
and you can use it in the component here.
Nice.
So it automatically on all links, I think, it prefetches. You don't need to do anything.
Yeah, I think so.
I like how clean it is.
Yeah.
Like the entire structure of it, you can just add the loaders.
Well, it's a lot of minimized to put
Yeah.
it on the homepage, but it seems like it is based on hooks, and it does look quite clean. So I don't know.
Exactly.
For me, I'm really anxious to just get started and to see
I want to have
how it actually
free
works.
time and to just play around with it.
Okay.
And it has error boundaries too.
Yeah, basically a full-featured
Yeah.
framework. That's nice. Okay, so maybe in the future we'll try to actually build something, and if we manage to succeed, then we will keep you posted.
Yeah.
So next one, so Recoil. Karolis, you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, since state management is sort of my thing, Recoil has been around for a while, and people actually have been using it even in production applications since 0.1, I think. Since it's a Facebook release, people don't usually look at the bugs and what happens. What's happening now is Recoil is just why it hasn't been released yet is because there are edge cases that need to be covered first, since it's not usable everywhere, and you'll need additional packages in order to use it. So before the release, what Facebook is trying to do is just figure out all those edge cases, implement all the features, and then release it before, instead of just releasing it now and telling everyone that it works, it's fine.
But how long have we been waiting?
A long time. Like I think I've.
Yeah, so the
2020.
first like version has come out in 2020, and it's been more than a year, maybe 1.5 years, and it's still an experimental version.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand Facebook's point of view on this, since they do want a fully fledged application. Like, they wouldn't like release React without those features for people to use. They would test it and then make sure it works. But Recoil already has been proven that it can be used in production now, and people do use it. There are a couple of warnings and errors that you see that actually mean nothing for now. Like they don't cause any issues when you actually build a website. So if you decide to use it, keep an eye out for those. But what Recoil basically does is it simplifies the entire state management of your React applications. So if you're, for example, it splits states into something called atoms.
Yeah,
And-
let's just have a quick refresher, I think, here.
Yeah, so it splits states into these small things called atoms,
Uh-huh.
and you can use them as selectors and setters inside your components as a global state. And if you set a state and if you change a state, what React does now, it basically, if you change a state in a component that is in like the lowest level, like a button, it re-renders the entire tree until it gets to that button. What Recoil does, it basically completely removes that and only re-renders that component, that button with that new state.
So basically, you can have a huge state, but then use recoil value, and then that selector is only going to update that component.
Exactly. And so while building large scale applications where, for example, I ran into issues in the past where I had this like huge form that kept updating every value and then re-rendering those in that entire tree of the form. And that was a huge issue. Recoil solves that completely just by using it. So I highly recommend it, just not for production applications now with a lot of users, since we still don't know what cases need to be covered.
But what could go wrong? I mean,
It's still-
if we use it in production very like a simple way, maybe it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay. Nothing bad will happen, but it's a good rule of thumb to just wait it out and wait for Facebook to say that, okay, that's good, let's release it, let's go to production. Like you wouldn't like put experimental Material UI packages in your production applications because they're still experimental.
I think I have at some point. Well, at least these Material UI labs, they have these skeleton components. I definitely use those in production.
I definitely use those as well, but what I do is I don't use the package, I just copy the code of the skeleton component, like the entirety, and check if everything's okay, and then use it as a like separate component inside my project.
Still, I really want to use Recoil. I'm not sure how long I can actually wait.
Well, right now what they did with version 1.0.5, sorry, is they simply improved the loading of it. They also improved, since I believe there were issues where if you use Recoil and a local state at the same time, sometimes those states went out of sync. That's why you have this unstable use Recoil refresher hook for selectors, since they need a way to keep those states in sync. But if you go through your application and use completely Recoil, it should be fine. But like that's an edge case that wasn't really covered and now is. So that's a very good thing they did. And of course they improved the performance overall, as well as did some bug fixes. So I think Recoil is moving in the right direction, and in the future it will be even better. But for now, let's just test it out, see how it works, and maybe in production applications use it in small parts.
Or maybe just use it in our personal projects.
Yeah, or only personal project. But if you decide, if you need, for example, if an application like Figma, where you have like a lot of moving parts, a lot of actions, a lot of like blocks that move around, and if you would build that on React and using a state, the state management to like prevent re-rendering of unused components would be quite hard to do. You would have to like manage a lot and think about it a lot and draw like structures of it. With Recoil, you wouldn't need to do that. You just make an atom and use it.
Yeah, but then it would probably like break. So
yeah, but it might break. So let's avoid production applications for now and only like start implementing it bit by bit in small parts where nothing breaks if something happens.
Okay. Got it. So we'll return to you in the next release, Recoil. Okay, so see you later. Now, let me just check. Okay, so we have viewers. That's cool. We have this nice effect here. The thing I wanted to share is AWS Amplify. So basically, apparently, it has been for, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe a bit more. And well, basically what it does is it is a toolkit to automate building applications. It already existed, but right now they have just released version 2 for their graphical transformer. So just a word of introduction is that it allows you to generate a lot of the code, which would, well, you would need to write it on your own. But if you use Amplify, then they can generate the code for the client side. They can generate the code for the backend, and basically you can just deploy it straight to AWS. And it also is kind of free. I mean, you only pay for the build minutes that you use, and you pay for the AWS resources.
Yeah, but that's
that you
normal. Like
actually-
you use their cloud and,
Yeah.
and servers. So
Yes, and since, well, I personally use AWS for my purposes, and I think I mean, it is holding the majority of the internet right now.
yeah.
So I just want to show you a really quick example of how this, well, graphical transformer works. And when I first saw it, it just blew my mind. So let me just find the link for this. Okay, so that's the docs for the GraphQL API. Yeah, so basically, you just set up an Amplify project. It's easy, npm install. It's a very easy process. Then you just configure it and basically run the initial generator. So for this one, there is a very nice wizard inside of your command line interface.
Yeah.
You select what kind of project you want. You can even have some examples. And basically, I have here an example of code. So it generates a whole tree of files, but most of them are just configuration. And the one file that you actually need, in this case, in the GraphQL API, is this one. So it's a GraphQL file. You define your types which you want to have in your API. You can automatically have mutations and queries for all of the types if you use this like input shorthand.
Yeah.
But you can also write all of the mutations on your own. So basically, this single file, you describe all of the data that's going to be in your app, and then you just run Amplify push. And what that does is actually builds the whole backend. And with this single file, we have a functioning backend. So right now it is up in the AWS.
Okay.
And I can just see, so you can see we have an address. We can write the whole query, list blocks, items, ID. I can just send it and I can just use it. It's that easy to use. So basically I have already created like some test items in here. So here's another mutation to create an item.
Yeah.
So you can just run that one. So for example, we can actually create one right now. And I just post that one. There's an API key in the headers. And it just works. You can see it's updated. It uses Amazon DynamoDB to actually manage all the database migrations and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure where it deploys. I don't know if it's using EC2 or it's using Lambda or something else, but I don't really care because with this one file, I have a fully functioning backend.
But it generates the code that you can see and check how it works. For example,
So-
there's resolve there.
Yeah, it actually, well, you can override your own resolves if you want, but it actually generates part of the code.
Mhm.
So you can see here, for example, let me see. Okay, so this build file, I don't know how much of it is actually usable because it's like these kind of configuration files.
Yeah.
But basically it generates everything on the client side and you just push it.
But you can.
Yeah, but you can see it like by file naming. If you go to the backend by file naming, you can see the mutations that are available to you.
Yeah.
And also one really cool thing is that you don't need to actually compose your own queries manually. And actually nobody uses Amplify in this way.
Yeah.
It generates a GraphQL folder.
Yeah.
So this is all generated code. And you can also select if you want JavaScript or TypeScript. So that's really nice touch. And it generates all of the mutations for you. It describes everything that you would like to do. All of these are like generated for you, and basically it also exports the types for TypeScript in here, so that's amazing. And then they also have this client-side library called AWS Amplify, and you can just pass that query and mutation into it, and you don't need to manage no authentication tokens, nothing. Basically, you just
AWS handles that for you.
yeah, you just configure it with the file that it generated for you. So, I mean, it's ridiculously easy to have a backend, and they provide libraries for React, for Vue, for all of the frameworks.
Well, I guess it like works well with AWS authentication system as well. Then
There are a lot of actually strategies how you want to implement that. So you can see. I think it was somewhere here, authorization rules. So basically, you can just have different strategies, API key or IAM or basically any kind of authorization you would like.
yeah,
And there are a lot of these directives that you can just add to the GraphQL schema, and they just work.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's something worth like taking a look at, since if you have like I don't know a small project, not even a larger one, I guess, with that needs only like databases and data and like an environment where you need to just delete, add, or edit posts. And I guess you can also make like relationships as well here, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, even here in this code example,
But it has custom business logic too. You can write custom resolvers, and I think you can even make requests to third-party API or something.
yeah, I mean the integrations are insane, but you know it's AWS, so it is powerful. It was created to be powerful.
Yeah.
And it's super impressive.
So I guess if you know AWS Amplify and are able to do this, and you know some like the front-end library, you can make an entire just project by yourself easily without writing any backend.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, well, for some kind of edge cases where you would like some, I don't know, very optimized database structure or just handle some kind of real-time communications.
Yeah.
Well, it has subscriptions actually. It generates subscriptions in GraphQL too.
Okay.
But if you need something very exotic, then yeah, of course, it's not going to work for you. But for basic applications, I don't know, a simple blog, maybe even a simple e-commerce site or something like that, it's more than enough.
Does it support file uploading?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That would be real nice to have it out of the box.
Yeah, well, GraphQL historically is very difficult to actually upload files, but you can generate REST APIs with it. So I'm not sure how that works, but for the GraphQL, where you just have one schema and everything is generated, then that's super easy. Maybe for REST API, it's more difficult. I don't know.
I think it's a similar way how Hasura works. It has REST APIs too, and maybe GraphCMS too.
I'm not sure about GraphCMS, to be honest.
But they just split routes similar to GraphQL schema.
Yeah, but the thing that I like in here is like, okay, so GraphCMS is amazingly cool.
Yeah.
You can just create the whole models, everything is done for you. But they have their own UI, and you're basically just tinkering with their website.
Yeah.
Hasura is like a pain to use. It's so difficult.
It's database modeling.
Yeah, it's basically database modeling. You just have to use a huge brain for that. And in this case, we're front-end developers. We know how to write a GraphQL query. Well, it's kind of easy. So, and we know how to use a code editor. So for me, this is a perfect way to actually create it. You just use your own code editor, you use your own command line interface because you know how to do it.
Yeah, I guess this is the best of both worlds then.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe we need to test it in kind of production to see what the actual costs sum up to it. And I really need to investigate what infrastructure it uses. Because if it's actually deploying to Lambda, then it's even better. Because if you have a rarely used API, you only pay for the uses of the Lambda function.
Yeah.
that's true.
So that would be even more cool. And I suspect they are using lambdas here.
I think so. I mean, they should. By the way, it works by the entire schema, like properties and things, and how they deploy it.
Yeah.
Like you don't even get how they deploy it. So it might be Lambda functions here.
Yeah. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I want to try the custom resolvers to see how we can add business logic.
Yeah, you can actually.
How it's hard.
There's a dedicated form.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If I need to code something, then I will be using this one instead of Graph CMS or Hasura. So
Yeah,
sorry.
probably.
Yeah,
But
I
so
agree.
far, for our random graphical service topic,
This looks amazing. Yeah.
this looks like a winner. Okay, so let's just quickly see what's our status here. By the way, if you have any kind of questions or comments or anything, just feel free to post them in the comments, and we will try to see what we can do about that. What are our next topics?
It's a new UI library for React Native, actually.
Okay, I didn't even see that you added this.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is, okay, React Native was mostly used to develop mobile apps, like,
Yes.
but it was made to like blur this line between mobile apps and web apps, so that you could build a mobile app and the web app at the same time using React Native. That was the main gist of it. The problem is that UI elements in the web and on mobile phones usually were very different, and you still had to make like two separate apps for both, no matter what.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest issue. This UI library called Tamagui, I'm not sure if you know, but there were these like small toys where
Tamagotchi.
where you this is where they got the name from, because that toy actually like blurred the line between actually growing a pet and having it on your phone. So what this library does is it blurs the line between web applications and mobile applications. So that's the main gist of it. The UI itself and how you write it, I quite liked the create tokens functionality, but the main library takes a lot of inspiration from how Material UI does things. But these tokens are something that I found which were actually quite amazing to use. For example, you can see that here you set the font size to 1, 12, that 1 is 12, 2 is 14, and 3 is 16. The way you access these font sizes is you simply in that component write the $sign and 1, for example.
Oh,
And then it
okay.
sets it to 12.
That's interesting.
But as I understood when I checked this, it's more like a UI library.
Yes.
The gap between the React Native and React is done by React Native Web Library, right?
Yes,
And it is based on that.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, that should be the case. But this is, if you're using React Native and you're trying to build an application, maybe you should consider using this UI library in your future projects.
Yeah.
But check out the documentation if it's worth it for you, because it doesn't do a lot of things, for example, that Material UI does. You still need like additional components for it. It's not like fully done.
I actually wanted to ask about components. I mean,
does
it look
you can
good?
see, just click like a button.
Okay.
So yeah, you see all these buttons
Can I
here.
switch it? Oh, that's the light.
Yeah. So the latest now is an alpha version 1.
And so it's not like ready for production yet.
If you click here, you'll see the versioning.
So there's just one version.
Yeah, it's one version. It's 1.0 and alpha. It's been released just now. Do not use this in production for now. You test it out on your own time, on your personal projects to see how it works. But the main components themselves look really promising. The entire stacking things and how flex-based layout works also looks really good. But do check it out and keep an eye out for this library in the future, because I think it might change how we use UI libraries in general to develop multi-functional applications instead of just the web one and a mobile one.
Well, it's actually a nice concept, but as I see, it's very not finished. They
No.
don't even have a single input of
They
text.
don't. It's just recently been released, but their goal looks very good, and they seem to be going in the right direction for now. And since they're taking great inspiration from Material UI, I think it should be good.
Okay, so I think the question here is then who is working on it, and I mean, is it even popular? Do we have a guarantee that they'll actually release this?
No, we don't. It's not guaranteed. There's not a lot of supporters for now, but it is gaining popularity. And who's working on this? It's like a whole group of people that just came together and decided to solve this issue. So yeah, it's something to just keep an eye out, but not use for now.
Okay, so I'll just watch it, and we'll see. Okay, well, it looks promising, but it's really not finished yet.
It's an early stage.
Okay. What's next? Okay, so Versal. I hope that everyone knows what that is.
Yeah, it's
Basically-
the creators of Next.js.
Of Next.js, of SWR hook.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool company that actually brings a lot of tools that we use. And they are on fire with their funding. It's already the Series D funding of theirs, and it seems like they have continuously gained contributors, I mean, for their funding, and they already attracted a lot of investment. But now they're even targeting higher. So basically, it's not so interesting in itself, but it means that Versal is gonna move even faster and even stronger forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because I like their product.
Yeah, it provides us a lot of projects.
Well, we've used and talked about Next.js recently and how good it is. I think we all use SWR hooks in our projects. Did you try them out, Timas?
I tried.
Yeah, they're really easy to use. I think they're my go-to if you have.
Yeah,
very
they're my
simple fetch.
go-to. Like when I realized that I can use SWR hooks like everywhere,
Yeah.
I just stopped using Redux because it didn't make sense to me anymore.
Yeah, you just have a simple context if you want, and
that's it.
leave all
So
the caching to SWR.
exactly, and if you need like a global state or some management, you just use like a more lightweight library coupled with use SWR.
Maybe Recoil,
Maybe Recoil, or maybe not.
or maybe not.
But yeah, so I like what they're doing, and I hope they continue with their products because that's definitely something I'm gonna use in the future, no matter what.
Yeah. Okay. So, good job. That's cool. Then we have this very interesting example with an intentional layout effect. And Karolis, did you add this?
No.
I have
Timas has.
this, yeah.
I
think
you
we
want a
can-
quick recap for this?
You can suggest it for our viewers to read it, but it basically covers some cases where use effect can sometimes fire before the paint.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main reasons is because of using use layout effect,
Mm-hmm.
and when using set state in use layout effect,
Mm-hmm.
that causes some issues and flickering. So yeah, there are some examples, and it's very well written, and I think this author has a lot of more articles
Mm-hmm.
there.
Okay. So
Yeah,
so we'll drop a link in the description when we release this video. But basically, just dives more deeper in how actually React works.
But like, this is good to know. Like, I think this is a must read, actually, because like you do need to know when your use effect actually triggers instead of does it trigger on the first load, or is it an infinite loop? So
Yeah, I mean, when I use either use effects or use layout effect, I just kind of like, I don't know, wing it. So I'm not really sure. But if one doesn't work, then I use the other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really not the correct way.
That's probably not the correct way to use it. So read this article so you don't have to be like Edmundas and bring all the use effects.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the last one, Astro.
Yeah, so this is a quick update on Astro. Astro released version 0.21. Basically, what they did is first Astro was based only for Svelte.
What is Astro?
Yeah.
It's like, do you remember we did that episode where we talked about Rust and like other compilers and like got into WebAssembly? Astro was basically that. It's just a compiler. A faster compiler. That's it, I guess. That's the gist of it.
Is it even faster than Rust and Vite and all of the others?
It's written on Vite, so it is a bit faster than Vite. It's based on Vite, so I guess maybe it's the same speed as Vite. So I'm not sure it's faster, but what it does, what it did, like the important part here is it's been completely rewritten in the Go language.
So it's written in Go.
Yeah. It's been rewritten in Go, and now it's powered by Vite. And before it was only based for Svelte. So this compiler is moving forward and is something to keep an eye out. But for now, just keep an eye out for it, and there's no like rushing into it. But they do seem to be putting a lot of effort, even from the early versions of this compiler, to make it the best in the best way possible.
Okay.
Yeah, and also they have Markdown components.
Markdown components.
Do you know what Markdown components are?
Isn't Storybook like using MDX like with the?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay, but it's not exactly MDX. So I know for sure that Storybook uses MDX format, but what is that? Interesting. So you can use React and Markdown.
Yep. And see those components.
Okay, but why would I need that?
I'm not sure. Maybe you want a component in Markdown. Maybe you want a nice README file
for the docs or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
You can make very nice documentation.
I don't know. Well, at least for me, it seems like they're solving a non-existent problem.
Yeah, they probably are, but it's just a cool feature.
Yeah.
Well, the main gist with Astro, they've completely rewritten it in Go. It's now powered by Vite, and they're like moving in a good direction. So I hope that more like frameworks start adopting it as well.
Okay.
That's it. That's the gist of Astro and the news for it.
Cool. Okay. We'll keep that in mind.
Okay.
So I guess that's it then.
Yeah.
That was fast, actually.
It wasn't that fast. It was 40 minutes.
Okay. 40 minutes again.
It just feels like that.
I guess. So I think we can recap then. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.
And we will be posting all of the links. So I guess that's it then.
That's it.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, and see you probably in
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wait, no, in 2 weeks it's
in 2 weeks it's gonna be
Christmas.
I don't know if we're gonna do a Christmas special.
No, probably not.
So probably
In a month.
Probably see you next year then.
See you next year.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.